The final transmission. The skies over what remained of Seattle burned orange through the reinforced windows of the Global Archive Initiative. Dr. Maya Takeda watched another acid storm lash against the protective dome, each droplet leaving microscopic scars on the transparent barrier. The facility's structural integrity monitors flashed amber warnings. This dome, like the 5 others protecting what remained of humanity's greatest minds, had perhaps months left before catastrophic failure. Maya returned to her workstation, pulling up the Global Situation Report. The news hadn't improved overnight. Australia was completely gone now, the last evacuation shuttles having departed 3 weeks ago. The Mediterranean Sea had become a toxic soup that emitted gases incompatible with human respiratory systems. Only the northern regions of Canada, Scandinavia, and Russia still maintained anything resembling habitable conditions, though the millions crammed into hastily constructed arcologies were slowly succumbing to resource depletion and biocontaminants. Terminal environmental collapse progressing 15% faster than projected, noted Dr. Vikram Singh, Maya's research partner. His voice remained clinical despite the implications. Oceanic oxygen production has dropped below minimum sustainable threshold. Maya nodded. She'd expected this. How long? 8 months until global atmospheric toxicity reaches lethal levels for mammalian life. Perhaps a year in the sealed arcologies, if they maintain power. He removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. The American Arctic arcology lost primary fusion capabilities yesterday. Around them, the Central Archive hummed with activity despite the apocalyptic timeline. Hundreds of researchers worked methodically, cataloging humanity's greatest achievements, most profound insights, and cultural treasures. The irony wasn't lost on Maya. Humanity had created its most comprehensive library at the precise moment when there would be no future generations to read it. "The quantum array is ready," announced Dr. Eliana Chen, approaching with a tablet displaying final diagnostic reports. "Power consumption will be catastrophic, though. Once we initiate, global grid failure will follow within hours." "How many people will that kill?" Maya asked bluntly. Chen's expression tightened. "Millions, potentially. Life support systems in all remaining arcologies will switch to emergency reserves. They'll have perhaps 2 weeks instead of 3 months." Maya felt the familiar weight of their decision crushing down on her chest. She had dedicated the last 5 years to the Beacon Project, humanity's final message to the cosmos, a quantum-entangled transmission that would send the entirety of human knowledge, history, art, and science hurtling across the galaxy faster than light. There would be no response, no rescue. Earth was dying by humanity's own hand. But perhaps somewhere, someone would remember that humans had existed. The lab doors hissed open. General Adeyemi strode in, flanked by security personnel. His weathered face showed the strain of commanding Earth's unified defense forces through humanity's final chapter. "Dr. Takeda, the Coalition Council demands an update." His voice was harsh from years of breathing damaged air before treatments became available. "The European arcology is requesting emergency power rerouting. They're losing environmental stability." Maya straightened her spine. "We're ready for transmission. The quantum array is operational." "At what cost?" Adeyemi's eyes narrowed. "You're asking to divert power that could keep people alive for weeks, possibly months." "We're asking to ensure humanity isn't forgotten," Maya countered. "That something of us survives beyond this planet's death. Poetry won't comfort the millions who'll suffocate when life support fails." Adeyemi snapped. Dr. Singh stepped forward. "General, humanity has perhaps 8 months left. The most optimistic projections give the arcologies 12 months. We've failed to reverse the cascade effects of environmental collapse. This isn't about individual survival anymore." The general's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. He knew the truth, had known it longer than most. The military had run the extinction calculations before civilian scientists were permitted to see the data. "The coalition gives you 48 hours to prepare." Then we divert full power to life support systems in the remaining arcologies. Make your transmission count, Dr. Takeda. He turned to leave before pausing. Make us worthy of remembrance. After he departed, the atmosphere in the lab remained heavy. Chen broke the silence. We need to compress the transmission package. There's too much redundancy in the cultural archives. Maya shook her head. No, we send all of it. Every painting, every song, every poem. The mathematical proofs and the children's stories. The transmission is quantum entangled. Data size is irrelevant. Power consumption isn't, Chen argued. If we're doing this, Maya said firmly, we're not censoring humanity's legacy based on some arbitrary metric of value. We were contradictory, beautiful, terrible, and brilliant. Whoever finds this should know us as we truly were. As the team worked through the night, Maya found herself drawn to the observation deck. Through gaps in the acid clouds, stars occasionally became visible, distant suns around which alien worlds might orbit. Would any of them understand what they received? Would they care about the extinction of a species they'd never known existed? The final checks on the quantum array consumed the next day. Maya barely noticed as hours passed without rest. The entire facility operated with the intensity of purpose that came with imminent mortality. Nobody complained about missed meals or exhaustion. At the 36-hour mark, alarms blared through the facility. Maya rushed to the command center where atmospheric monitors showed a catastrophic spike in toxicity. The South Pacific algae colonies have collapsed, explained the environmental officer, voice tight with controlled panic. Atmospheric oxygen levels are dropping globally. General Adayami's face appeared on the main communication screen. Takeda, we're moving up the timetable. You have 6 hours before we redistribute power. Maya felt adrenaline surge through her system. We need 12 hours minimum for proper calibration. You have 6. Make it work. The connection terminated. What followed was a blur of desperate activity. Maya delegated calibration sequences to her team, focusing on the transmission parameters herself. The quantum entanglement matrix, technology that had cost 17 lives during development and been deemed theoretically impossible by half the scientific community, pulsed with blue-white energy at the heart of the facility. 5 hours later, Dr. Chen approached Maya at the main control console. The array is stable, but we're detecting anomalous patterns in the quantum field. If we initiate transmission, the consequences could be unpredictable. More unpredictable than the extinction of our species. Maya's fingers continued programming the final sequence. We're out of time for perfect solutions. The facility warning system, activated as power systems throughout the complex, diverted to the quantum array. Emergency lighting bathed the control room in crimson. Outside, Maya could see lights throughout the protected zone flickering as power drained away. Main sequence initiating, Maya announced, activating the final protocol. The quantum array hummed with increasing intensity as energy flooded the system. Transmission commencing in 3, 2, 1. The world went white as the quantum array activated, sending humanity's complete record, every achievement, every failure, every song and story and scientific discovery, racing outward at speeds that defied conventional physics. On the monitoring station, an impossible alert appeared. QUNTUM Seginel RECIPDETTE 13.7 light years. The control room erupted in shocked exclamations. The transmission hadn't just fired blindly into space. Something had received it. That's impossible, breathed Chen. We're getting feedback. Actual feedback. Before Maya could respond, the facility trembled violently. Power fluctuations cascaded through the systems as the overtaxed grid began to fail around them. Stability failure in the quantum array, shouted Singh as warning klaxons blared. Containment breach imminent. Maya raced to the emergency protocols, trying to stabilize the reaction. Through the observation windows, she could see darkness spreading across the landscape as power grids failed in sequence. In the command center, communication screens showed similar blackouts spreading globally. The quantum array chamber doors sealed automatically as radiation levels spiked. Maya found herself trapped inside with the pulsing heart of the transmission device. Through reinforced glass, she could see her colleagues desperately trying to override the safety protocols. Continuing transmission, she reported through the emergency communication system. 93% complete. As radiation levels rose around her, Maya watched the completion indicators climb toward 100%. Blood trickled from her nose as her body reacted to the increasing radiation, but she kept her focus on the mission. Transmission complete, she finally announced. Voice weak. Confirmation signal received. The last thing Maya saw before losing consciousness was the quantum array's monitoring screen, where an impossible message blinked repeatedly. G or ECIPT. Stay and DUI for RESPONSC. Ambassador Zerulus of the Galactic Confederation stared at the emergency alerts flooding every communication device in the diplomatic chamber. The elegant meeting room designed for the comfort of representatives from 23 different species had erupted into chaos as each alien device simultaneously activated without input. Containment breach, shouted Fleet Commander Nexera, her scaled skin flushing deep crimson as emergency protocols engage. The reptilian commander's clawed hand slammed onto the security override, but the incoming signal continued unabated. It's overriding all firewalls, reported the communications officer, a gelatinous medu whose translucent tentacles rippled with distress across multiple control surfaces. Signal origin. Sol system, third planet. Zerulus felt his four hearts skip in astonishment. Earth. Impossible. The Galactic Confederation, 23 advanced species united millennia ago, had secretly monitored Earth for centuries. Their observation posts, disguised as asteroids in the outer solar system, had documented humanity's wars, environmental destruction, and erratic technological development with detached scientific curiosity. Their assessment had been clear and unanimous. Class 3 self-terminating species. Quarantine until extinction. Isolate the signal, ordered Nexera. It could be a trap using Earth as cover. But across the bridge, holographic displays filled with streams of data unlike anything Zerulus had ever witnessed. Not standard radio broadcasts, not primitive binary code. This was quantum-entangled information transfer, technology that Confederation scientists believed no less than 6 centuries beyond human capability. This violates all developmental progression models, stated Science Director Vela, her luminous tendrils trembling as they manipulated the analysis interface. No species develops quantum entanglement communication before mastering ecological balance or basic planetary engineering. Zerulus moved closer to the central display where the content of the transmission was being decoded in real time. What are they sending? What unfolded before them was staggering. A complete archive of human knowledge. Scientific theories, mathematical proofs, artistic masterpieces, philosophical treatises, historical records, genetic sequences, technological schematics, all offered freely to whoever might be listening. There's no encryption, whispered First Minister Thalen in disbelief. They're giving everything away. Most confounding of all was what they didn't find. No demands for rescue, no threats, no declarations of cosmic significance. Deep in the transmission's architecture, they discovered the emotional core of the message, embedded in multiple languages and mathematical sequences. Remember, U.S. As the Confederation specialists struggled to process the flood of data, an urgent alert came from the observation outpost near Jupiter. Earth's power grid had collapsed entirely. Continental blackouts spread across the planet's night side. Gather the High Council, Zerulus ordered, his voice solemn. All 23 homeworlds must convene immediately. As he watched Earth's lights going dark on the monitoring screens, Zerulus felt something unprecedented stirring within him. Respect for a species that chose to share its legacy with the universe rather than struggle for a few more days of survival. For the first time in Confederation history, a quarantined species had reached out across the cosmos. and against all protocols and predictions, Zerulus found himself compelled to answer. The emissaries return. This cannot be correct. Run the simulations again, demanded Trellix, chief analyst of the Kravoth military division. The massive warrior slammed his armored fist onto the conference table, causing holographic projections to flicker momentarily. For 14 consecutive days, the Confederation's most brilliant minds had dissected humanity's data archive without breaks, their normal biological cycles suspended by medical intervention due to the unprecedented nature of the discovery. I verified the translation algorithms 27 times, replied Nelian, the willowy Ani linguist whose silver eyes reflected millennia of accumulated wisdom. The data integrity is perfect. The chamber fell silent as a transmission segment labeled Ludwig van Beethoven, Symphony No. 9, Ode to Joy, played through the acoustically perfect environment. Several Kalian representatives wept silently, their crystalline bodies refracting light in patterns that indicated profound emotional distress. How could a species produce this? Asked Vexera, the gelatinous collective intelligence of the Medu, pulsing with agitation, while simultaneously developing thermonuclear weapons and destroying their own biosphere. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. The question wasn't rhetorical. Across 23 species, evolutionary patterns had remained consistent. Civilizations that developed weapons of mass destruction invariably applied their scientific advancement towards stability and longevity before developing sophisticated artistic expression. More disturbing still, noted Dr. Rylith, chief empathic specialist, is their psychological resilience. The display shifted to children's drawings from concentration camps, colorful pictures of homes and families created by the doomed, poetry written on scraps by those awaiting execution, music composed in ghettos. They maintained hope without any logical foundation for it. Dr. Rylith continued, our psychological models cannot account for this. General Krivax of the Kravoth contingent growled low in his throat, tapping razor-sharp claws against his ceremonial armor. Their adaptability is terrifying. They survived radiation levels that would exterminate most carbon-based life. They continued functioning in environmental conditions well beyond their biological parameters. He brought up military files from Earth's archives. They developed asymmetric warfare tactics that our strategic simulators cannot predict because they deliberately sacrifice optimal outcomes to achieve unexpected results. Meanwhile, in a private chamber adjacent to the main conference room, the ancient Aunhi elder Natellus studied human technological progression with growing alarm. Her assistants hovered nervously as she reviewed the data for the 16th time. They compressed 9 millennia of our development into less than 5 centuries, she whispered, voice trembling. From their earliest computing machines to quantum theory in a single human lifetime. This acceleration curve defies all precedent. She turned to her youngest aide. What drives such desperate innovation? The aide hesitated. Perhaps their short lifespans. They feel death's approach constantly. In the medical wing, empath specialist Dr. Kiveris struggled to recover from neural shock after interfacing with the emotional component of human literature. Her medical monitors showed dangerously elevated hormone levels despite sedation. Their greatest works emerged from their deepest suffering. She explained to the attending physician, voice unsteady. They intentionally exposed themselves to emotional trauma to produce artistic breakthroughs. It's simultaneously beautiful and horrifying. As the Confederation Council reconvened, philosophical division grew rancorous. Half the chamber viewed humans as dangerous aberrations that mercifully self-destructed before achieving interstellar capability. The other half increasingly argued something unprecedented, that the Confederation had a moral obligation to preserve what remained of humanity, not for humanity's sake, but for their own. Consider the implications, Ambassador Zerulus suggested quietly. What if their seeming contradictions aren't flaws but advantages we cannot comprehend? The debate might have continued indefinitely, if not for an urgent transmission from Earth observation post Epsilon 9. Against all predictions, against the Confederation's most sophisticated models, Someone was still alive down there, and they were trying to reactivate the quantum transmitter. Maya Takeda regained consciousness in darkness. The emergency lighting had failed, leaving only the faint blue glow of the quantum array for illumination. Her radiation badge had turned black, a very bad sign. She tasted copper, another indication of significant radiation exposure. The sealed chamber had protected her from the catastrophic structural failure that had claimed most of the facility. Through cracked observation windows, she could see only rubble where the control room had been. No sign of her colleagues remained. Her emergency tablet still functioned, showing 72 hours had passed since the transmission. Global communications had fallen silent. The arcologies had likely switched to internal communication systems as they struggled to maintain life support on emergency power. Maya coughed, spitting blood onto the floor. Her time was limited, but there was work yet to do. The quantum array showed something impossible: active feedback channels where there should be none. The aliens, whoever they were, weren't just receiving. They were attempting to establish two-way communication. With trembling hands, Maya calibrated the receiver systems. Pain lanced through her body with each movement, radiation sickness progressing rapidly. The facility's automated medical systems had injected her with anti-radiation compounds while she was unconscious, but they could only delay the inevitable. "This is Dr. Maya Takeda of Earth," she transmitted through the quantum link, voice rasping. "If you're receiving this, our plan worked. We are heard." She waited, watching the quantum fluctuations on her monitoring equipment. Minutes passed before a response arrived, not in words but mathematical sequences, universal constants, contact protocols. Maya worked feverishly to establish a translation matrix, fighting through waves of nausea and dizziness. Hours blurred together as she maintained the connection, exchanging increasingly complex information with the unknown recipients. When the pain became unbearable, she injected herself with stimulants from the emergency medical kit, knowing each dose was destroying what remained of her damaged organs. On the third day after regaining consciousness, Maya succeeded in establishing visual communication. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything she had imagined. A tall, willowy figure with silvery skin and 4 arms, eyes like liquid mercury. "Dr. Takeda." The alien spoke, its translator converting its melodic language to halting English. "I am Ambassador Zirillus of the Galactic Confederation. We have received your transmission." Maya laughed, a sound that transformed into painful coughing. "You're real. We weren't shouting into an empty universe after all. Your transmission has caused significant disruption within our society," Zirillus said carefully. "Nothing like this has ever happened before." "I'm sorry to have disturbed your peace," Maya replied, wiping blood from her lips. "But we didn't want to disappear without anyone knowing we existed. Why did you choose to send your knowledge rather than request assistance? Your transmission contains no plea for rescue." Maya's smile was sad. "We caused our own extinction. We don't deserve rescue. But perhaps our art, our science, our understanding of the universe, those things deserve to survive us." The alien was silent for a long moment. "Your species confounds us. You create weapons that can destroy your world, yet compose music that moves species who have never heard such sounds before. You wage war on yourselves, yet sacrifice your final energies to preserve knowledge for others." "We were contradictory," Maya acknowledged. "It might have been our greatest strength and our fatal flaw." "You speak in past tense, Dr. Takeda, yet you live." "Not for much longer." Maya gestured to her radiation badge. "This conversation is my final act. And yet you continue to transmit scientific data rather than expressing fear or regret. What would be the point of fear now? Besides," Maya's voice softened, "I've lived to make first contact with an alien civilization. Few scientists could ask for a better final chapter." The conversation was interrupted as Maya collapsed, consciousness fading. The last thing she heard was Zirillus giving urgent orders in an untranslated language. Maya awoke to a strange sensation, the absence of pain. Her vision cleared slowly, revealing an unfamiliar ceiling of flowing, organic curves. The air smelled of something sweet and unidentifiable. "The patient is conscious," announced a melodic voice. Maya turned her head to see a being unlike Ambassador Zerulus. This one had a crystalline structure that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. "Where am I?" Maya's voice was stronger than it should have been. "You are aboard the Confederation medical vessel Compassionate Intervention," replied the crystalline being. "I am Chief Medical Officer Selexia." "That's impossible." Maya struggled to sit up. "I was dying of radiation poisoning on Earth." "You were indeed," Selexia confirmed. "Our extraction team reached you approximately 37 minutes before total organ failure would have occurred. Your cellular damage was extensive." Maya looked down at her body, which appeared unchanged despite what should have been lethal radiation exposure. "You cured me." "We reconstructed you," Selexia corrected. "Your original body was beyond salvaging. This is a genetic replica with your neural patterns transferred. By your medical understanding, you did die. But your consciousness continues." The implications were staggering. Maya felt tears forming, an emotional response perfectly replicated in her new body. Why? Why break quarantine for a single dying human? "That question has caused the greatest debate in Confederation history," said a familiar voice. Ambassador Zerulus entered the medical chamber. "Some believe we should maintain our non-interference directive and allow Earth's extinction to proceed uninterrupted. Others argued that your transmission represented an evolutionary leap that merited preservation." "And what did you decide?" Maya asked. "We have not yet reached consensus," Zerulus admitted. "But while the Council debates, individual members took action. The Oni committed their biorestoration technologies. The Medu provided neural pattern transfer capabilities. Even the Krevov, who advocated most strongly against intervention, contributed their atmospheric engineering expertise." Atmospheric engineering. Maya's scientific curiosity immediately engaged. "For what purpose?" "Observe," Zerulus gestured, and a viewing portal opened in the wall. Maya gasped. Below them floated Earth, but not the dying world she remembered. Teams of alien vessels surrounded the planet, releasing swarms of nanotechnology into the poisoned atmosphere. "We cannot save everyone," Zerulus said solemnly. "The damage is too extensive, the cascade failure too advanced. But we can preserve enough to rebuild the arcologies, seed banks, genetic repositories, and most importantly, the survivors." "How many?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Perhaps 3 million humans will survive the restoration process," Zerulus answered. "It will take generations for Earth to be fully habitable again, but your species will have that time. As provisional members of the Confederation." Provisional members. Maya couldn't comprehend the scale of what was happening. "But we haven't even achieved routine space travel beyond our own moon." "No species in Confederation history has developed quantum entanglement communication before achieving sustainable ecological practices," Zerulus explained. "You have violated our understanding of developmental progression. The question before us is whether this represents terrible danger or unprecedented potential." Maya watched the alien ships working to save her dying world. "And what do you believe, Ambassador?" "I believe that a species capable of sacrificing its final days to ensure its knowledge survives deserves the chance to share that knowledge in person." Zerulus's mercury eyes seemed to smile. "Besides, your Bach and Shakespeare have caused quite a sensation across 23 worlds. There is significant interest in meeting the species capable of creating such works." As Maya watched the Confederation vessels surrounding Earth, she felt something she had abandoned months ago: hope. Humanity had transmitted its legacy to the stars, never expecting rescue, only remembrance. Instead, they had found something no one had anticipated: a galactic community ready to welcome the strange, contradictory species that had shouted its final defiance against extinction into the cosmos. The transmission had been meant as humanity's epitaph. Instead, it had become their introduction. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now," Zerulus replied, "we established proper diplomatic relations. Your world is dying, but your species need not die with it. The Confederation has many habitable worlds where human colonies could thrive while Earth heals. In return, we ask only that you share with us that uniquely human perspective that allowed you to create such beauty alongside such destruction." Maya looked back at her homeworld, where pinpoints of light were returning to the night side as Confederation technology restored power to the struggling arcologies. "I think," she said with growing certainty, "humanity would find those terms acceptable."